Hi, Carol Beringer here, and welcome to the Amazing Movement podcast. And the purpose of this podcast is to help you find as much joy and well-being in your life day in and day out. So we're here with Kristin Stitz, and I'm going to let her introduce herself and tell you a little bit about her business.
Okay. Well, first I want to say thank you. I feel super honored to be part of this community that you're creating and to be one of your first guests. It's my first podcast, so I'm a little nervous, but
Only my second, so I'm nervous too.
Carol's easy to talk to, so I know that I'll warm up.
Thank you.
Anyway, I am a holistic nutrition consultant. I have a nutrition coaching practice. It's right here in Wayne, but I work with people virtually, so I pretty much can take clients anywhere in the country or anywhere in the world. And what I do is I help people who either have specific health concerns or they want to lose weight or they just want to feel better. One of the things that people come to me for if they're being proactive is about aging, because there's so much you can do at any point in your life to improve the way that you age and how the rest of your life goes in terms of the energy that you have for the life that you want to live. So when I work with clients, we meet for about once a week or every 2 weeks for 3 months, and we just do kind of an iterative process looking at not only the nutrition and what they're eating and their specific, health concerns, but also the other things that factor in that are all part of your wellness, like stress and sleep and exercise, because it really is very integrated and you can't address one without the other. So that's what I do.
All of that is so true. There's that saying, when you know more, you do better. So all of the things that you're incorporating. So I was saying that this morning I was listening to, so I was taking a warm bath to calm myself down to be on camera. Talk about nervous. And I was listening to a podcast about lymphatic drainage.
Mm-hmm.
More health stuff. Yep. And so a big part of it is better sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So the things that we take for granted or ignore, or we know we should do better, and I don't like to should on me or anyone else, learning all those things and putting together is reducing stress.
Yeah.
They do reduce stress.
The way you think about sleep there's such a shift from, I have two one's in his 20s. I have two boys.
Okay.
They could care less about their sleep. They don't care. My one son, one's in college, so he's pulling the all-nighters and sleep until 11, and the other one is working really late hours at his first job. And it's not a thing, but the older you get, the more you learn, and the research is showing that sleep is just like key to every process in the body, and it's really something that you need to pay attention to.
Yeah, really. And then as you get older, you have more trouble sleeping.
Yeah, and women go through a phase where
you realize how important it is, and darn, why didn't I learn this earlier in life? But yeah,
it's never too late. That's a good thing,
right?
Yeah,
it is never too late. Okay, so we're going to start. I have cards here that I mix up. It's like a card game. Okay, so what is your personal definition of wellness, and how has it evolved in your journey through life?
Well, the evolution is from zero, right? I never really thought about wellness, but I think over time I started to do some things. I don't know why. I can't even tell you where I first decided I was going to try to meditate or get into yoga or become a nutritionist. But over time, I learned how important it is, especially when you go through a crisis in your life. And the time to get these habits established is before the crisis hits, because it's really hard to try to do it in the middle. You need them there as a platform. So my definition of wellness is really being very mindful about who you are and what affects you, and then being very proactive about who you want to be and how you can shape your life, because I really believe that everybody has the ability and the power to be and do whatever they want to be. But you need to sort of be tuned in to yourself. That's kind of the first step, so that you can say, oh, this didn't really go so well, and this is how I was feeling, this is how my body felt, this is what I was thinking. And those are maybe the areas that I want to pay attention to.
Yes. And sense? So living with intention, like knowing these things and setting a plan. Yeah, having a plan. This is wild and random, but I recently went for my annual physical. So while I was waiting for the doctor to come in, they had a manual for a happy life. Maybe it was a happy life or just maybe a good life, but it was eat well, sleep well, try to stress less. And the last thing was, be physically active. But the last thing was, if you do all the things above and continue to work on your character, you will have a happy life. I mean, character. I mean, when we think of it, that's who we are. And if we check in on that, like you said, if you do that with intention, all you can ever do is get better. In the quest for resilience, do you have a regular check-in to make resolutions to boost you? You're saying that you do that. So do you have a daily practice for it?
So my daily practice is journaling. And I have journaled since I was a teenager. I've got boxes of journals.
Wow.
Sometimes I go back and read them, but it's really something that I could not do. It's not for everybody. I think everybody has to find their own thing that does it for them. But when I wake up in the morning, that's the first thing I do. And, I do other things. I do yoga, I meditate, but sometimes they fall by the way, and that's always challenge, not a challenge, but an aspiration to be regular and to not let life interfere. But
good luck with that.
Yeah,
right?
I know. It's just, but then I had practiced yoga for quite a long time, 6 or 7 years, and I was always like, oh, I'm not doing it right. I'm not doing it often enough. I'm not regular enough. I should go to this class more. I need to get that pose perfected. And then one time it just hit me that like, you're doing it, and that is right.
You just need to show up.
You're just showing up. And that was really transformative for me because I stopped beating myself up, because I wasn't going 3 times a week, or I wasn't, doing whatever, getting better.
You were stressing over to do what to help you de-stress.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
That's hilarious.
But showing
but we
up,
do that.
we're
human.
Yeah,
it's being human.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. So, all right. So, because we always say what our excuse is when that happens to us is, oh, I'm too busy. So if you could expand time, how would you spend it? And would you add additional hours to a day, or would you ask for another day a week?
Oh, wow.
Okay. While you're thinking about that, I'll tell you how that came to me many, many years ago. It was Christmas time, and I went into the hardware store in the little village I lived in at the time. And everybody, in the village knows each other. So a woman walks in that I know, and the man says, could I help you? And she goes, yeah, I'd like an extra hour for the day.
Did they sell it there?
Yeah.
Because tell me where that is.
Be a line, right?
Yeah.
So,
that is such an interesting question. My mother used to always say, there's not enough hours in the day. And I catch myself. That's like a thing for me, like a real challenge I have every day. And I think part of it is because my brain is always going, oh, I'd love to do that. Wouldn't that be great? I'd like to travel here. I'd like to do that hobby. I'd like to start a podcast. I'd like to do this extra training for nutrition in whatever. So I try to tell myself, isn't it wonderful that I have such a creative, active brain? But if all I do is put them on a list and then feel bad that I haven't accomplished it, then I'm just stressing myself out. And that's my challenge. And I work on that every day because I always want more hours in the day. I never thought about another day in the week. That's a good one.
Yeah. So, yeah. And if you could magically have a new skill that you would use in this, that you could find in this extra time, what would it be? And that could be like learn to fly a plane or a helicopter, learn a new language, like something just for you, just for fun, that's on that list, that if you had that, what would be might be the first thing you tackle?
Photography.
Wow.
Yeah. It's something I don't know, 5 years ago, I kind of started to get into, and then I shifted a bit my focus, and I still love it, but I only do it on vacation, and it's kind of hard because you forget all the things that you're supposed to do, and then the pictures don't turn out well, and I get mad at myself. So I think that'll be a good retirement project for me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of retirement, I'm much older than you, so I and I've just tried to build a life, and that's part of this idea of this podcast is how do we just build a lifestyle that we're happy to be in, right? And just, this is it. And we've created this lifestyle, and then it actually does free up space for the things if you're not busy stressing over the things you want to put into the lifestyle. So many people talk about the blue zones that, it's very much a trendy thought right now about the blue zones with the shows and the research that has come out, I think mostly this year, that they don't use the word retirement, that is their life, and that they just, maybe they do it less a day or whatever, but they, one of the best elements, and having a purpose in life. So, where you might do it less hours, or you'll have, build the time in to expand that time so that you have time to do photography.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe we'll have lunch someday and play with that thought. I love to play those games. Well, you told us a lot about your self-care practices and the journaling. So I know how that works. I know people that actually, I met Kristin because in my Pilates studio that we have an acupuncturist, and that's how Kristin first came to the studio, was to visit the acupuncturist that shares my space, and she's wonderful. So she journals, and you journal. I have tried to journal since childhood. Get a diary at Christmas time or for your birthday, and I've got my little pink diary, and I'm going to write in it, and I last about a minute. And then I recently went on a really long trip that you know about this summer to Indonesia. I was gone for 3 weeks, and a friend of mine who's a world traveler said, journal every day, write down what happens. And I said, I'm not good at that. And he goes, better yet, in your phone there's voice memo, voice journal every day. So I did some, but this morning that came to me because I said I'm voice journaling ideas for this podcast and the questions to ask, and this has really been a boost for me. So this has made me journal in a way by even making questions, but it's just sitting down and journaling and writing, I know, is supposed to be super powerful. I think actually my son, who's 40, does that. Yeah, and that's not something that I've done. So
I think if I could just a thought on that, and this is something I work on my clients with. There's so many different things you can do that you find the one that works for you. Journaling may not be. I'm just a writer, and in this age, the digital age, people keep saying, "Oh, you should put videos on Instagram," which is a great idea. It's good for good marketing, but I'm not a video person. I don't watch videos. I don't even really watch movies or TV, but I'm a writer and I'm a reader.
Yes.
So, everybody has their thing, which speaks to them and feels comfortable and feels empowering. And if it's not journaling, then it could be walking meditation. It could be singing. It could be anything. And part of this whole journey I think you're talking about is figuring it out for yourself. Like, what is my combination of wellness practices that feels right for me?
I know a really good tip that was given to me at the beginning of the year, not a tip, but I also see a reflexologist. And so when I went to see her, she goes, I was so excited to see you because I know that you'll love this. My birthday is New Year's Eve, so I usually try to go her as a treat to myself close to that date. And she said, okay. She said, I'm picking a word for the year to be my focus. And she said, it's already working for me. And so she said, I'm not putting you under pressure to tell me this hour why you're here, but think about it. And by the time I drove home, I called her because, and I came up with the word receive. And the reason is that I'm a giver and I like to give, and I find it very hard to receive a compliment, anything. Like I divert, or I don't know. That's my thing. That's very hard for me to receive. And I went back and looked at my notes because I also work with a life coach, and we had a meeting to set the tone for the year also. And I look back and I'm like. She told me, she said, you need to learn how to receive. So, when you do, the messages come to you. Yeah. Right? And I mean, even how I met Stacy Grant and Eric, the technician here today, they're their business. When I met Stacy, like she's helped me so much to focus on getting this done, which was something that was on my list that I needed to do because it's been on there for a while. And, meeting her was like serendipitous in many ways, the way we met. And then recently they just moved their business from Westchester to Wayne.
Oh my goodness, right here.
I mean, yes. So
that's amazing.
Kristin and I both have businesses in Wayne, Pennsylvania. And so, all right.
Yeah, I'm a big believer, and that's kind of ties into what I said at the beginning, that if you are mindful and you know yourself, that you find the things that you need. You send, some people call it the universe, right? You send the signals out to the universe, and the universe throws something back at you if you pay attention.
Yes.
Maybe Stacy was around all this time and you never paid attention, but when you decided, or you were intentional about, this is what I want to do,
I received all the messages
absolutely
to get me to car.
That's so great.
Yeah, we need to be open to that. And when you're saying, like, however it comes to you, like we were Stacy and I were talking about, like, people pray or they meditate or do self-hypnosis or go on walking meditations and find Tai Chi or Qigong, or, you just have to open yourself up to it. And then the right thing will show its way. I mean, the way you and I met at the studio.
Right.
And knowing that, your approach to having people eat better is to know better. And, okay, so before we started today and Stacy was leaving,
here we go.
and Kristin was coming in, we were practicing with the mic and so Stacy said, so what did you have for breakfast? Kristin, what did you have for breakfast?
Okay. So you're going to get a little mini nutrition lesson here. So I had ratatouille this morning. I actually had been away all week and I didn't have much in my house, but I had ratatouille in the freezer. 2 weeks ago, I posted the recipe on my blog, and I also posted a list of all the different ways you can freeze it and you can eat it, so that you can be creative with it when you don't have any food in the house. So I heated it up and I put some sausage in it with a little bit of cheese on top. The other nutrition aspect of that is I really almost always, when I work with clients, we start with breakfast, because American breakfasts are the worst. Carby, muffin, bagel, smoothie, all the things that are kind of typical breakfast foods. And I think I encourage people to kind of expand the definition of breakfast and have protein for one. We want to have protein for breakfast, but also what's in your fridge. It doesn't have to be breakfast food. It can be last night's leftover steak. It can be a salad that you only ate half of it. So for me, that has been super helpful, because I don't know when, but I have really kind of revamped what I eat for breakfast, and I eat a lot of what sound like crazy things like ratatouille. The other thing I love for breakfast, which I don't have because I've been away for a couple of days, is I love greens for breakfast, because the greens are just so healthy and it's hard to get enough in. So I'll saute some kale or some spinach and eat it with my eggs a lot, frequently.
I'm getting hungry. So I think this might be our last question. I feel like we're coming to the end of our time. If you could have dinner with one person, dead or alive, who would that be?
It would be my dad.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he passed 4 years ago. Before that, I would have said my grandmother. So, it would be nice to have dinner with, I don't know, some famous person.
Yes,
but I would
that's
rather,
where most people would go.
I'd rather have dinner with somebody who I miss.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great. Well, we will have information, available for you at the end of this podcast and when it's posted, how to reach Kristin, and I hope you do. So we'll see you next time.